Hello, I'm Jacob Elliott, and with the debut episode of Broadway 10 Stars, I am so excited to be here today for this debut episode. I'm getting ready for Broadway Con. I just saw Some Like It Hot, and we're about to do one of my favorite shows ever, and I have a special guest here with me today, and I'm so excited to have him. He's pretty big. I've seen on Facebook and stuff what he does, and I'd like to introduce him, and let's just let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm David Benkof. I call myself the Broadway Maven. I do a Substack newsletter called the Broadway Maven's Weekly Blast. I've got about 9,000 subscribers. I also put on classes on Broadway, and I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and that's just really cool to have you on, and especially as a debut episode. It's really good to have someone that has that kind of popularity on, because I love Broadway. I'll get into this more than we talk about the show, but it's been a part of my life, and this show we're talking about, Evan Hansen, is going to be our first ever show, and it saved my life. It was the first ever musical I ever heard, first ever musical I saw, and it just changed my life. And so Broadway's been a big part of my life, but Evan Hansen has been the biggest inspiration for me as a person. And it's awesome just to see that it affected me, but also I'm interested to hear how it affected you before we get started too.
Right.
How did you feel about, did you understand the concept? Did it affect you, move you, or?
Yes. And by the way, thank you so much for letting me be part of the new adventure that you're on. I saw it 3 times before it went to Broadway. I saw it in Washington as its very first initial production.
So the previews, technically, right?
Kind of out of town tryout.
The pre-Broadway run.
Pre-Broadway run,
right.
And then off Broadway, I saw it twice, and then I saw it on Broadway. So I've been following it for a very long time, and Ben Platt's performance is extraordinary, and that was the part that I liked the best. As a matter of fact, I told my Facebook friends that if Ben doesn't win Best Actor, I'm going to wear sackcloth and ashes for a week. And I don't know where to get sackcloth, but I was going to wear it because it would have been so offensive that Ben wouldn't win. Remarkable show. I loved it.
Yeah, and I was crying. Every time I hear You Will Be Found, I cry. Because it's such a moving song. And before we get in, I just want to let everyone know, that song originally was almost cut from the show, never even in the show. It was actually added right before the first show, because they didn't know how it would fit in the show and how it would be. It's in, if you guys ever look at the David Hansen behind the scenes book, it actually tells in there that they were not even sure really how to feel about that song at first, but after they put it in, that song has just taken off into a whole new demeanor. And it's just been, you can see it on so many places. You can see it like choir singing and everything. It's just such a moving and heartfelt song that I just think it's really funny. At first they didn't really know how to feel about it, but after it took off, they really did the right decision adding that in. But it's just so amazing that Ben Platt, I just want to talk about him for a second.
Sure.
Ben Platt, he is amazing, and I love his acting and his voice. Especially I've seen his acting in Parade. I have not seen Parade, but I've seen videos and stuff like that, and he is just a wonderful actor. I love his talent, and especially as Evan Hansen. I mean, he had to get therapy with his hands for having that cast on so much. So he actually had to have a bottle, and he actually had that therapy to flip the bottle open because he had the cast on for so long that sometimes he maybe lost most of his motor function in that thumb.
Wow.
So he actually had that therapy. So he took the role really seriously, and backstage interviews and stuff, they don't really see Ben Platt a lot because he's so focused and so intertwined in his role that he is so in depth that he doesn't really talk to anyone before and after shows.
Wow.
Because he's so emotional, but he also took the role very seriously.
Yeah.
And you could tell it on stage, and he does that with all of his roles.
I was suspicious that Ben Platt just is like Evan Hansen. Right? And so then when I saw him in Parade, I was like, oh no.
No, he's just
a really good actor.
Yeah, right? Probably one of the best I've seen or ever heard of, in this generation. Probably one in the generation kind of an actor.
Yeah.
His voice is. I know some people don't like the movie, but I thought his acting in the movie, David Hansen, was really good too. And I know in the movie, they actually did all the singing live. They didn't do any studio recordings hardly. So they did all the singing live on set. So his voice and his talent of understanding how to do it on set live is just amazing also. But Ben Platt, I just love him. He really is, his voice and his acting is just over the walls and over the ceiling. And I think you agree with that too.
Sure. So I have a theory about waving through the window, although we're going to go through 10.
Yeah, we're going to go through,
Right.
So, well, yeah, like he said, so this is why we call it Broadway 10, is because we have 10 little categories we're going to go by and just kind of talk about and maybe rate just by 10 stars and see, and then in the end we'll round everything up and then we'll rate the show in the whole. Like I did this other day. I'm not going to tell you what I got from my personal, but for me personally, I did this other day with David Hansen and I got a good score. But personally, that's my favorite show, so I'm interested to see what you say too.
Sure.
See how other people feel, because this show does affect people in different ways than it does everyone. Everyone feels a different way about the show, because it definitely moves everyone in a different way just based on their history.
And are we judging it based on the original production?
Yeah, the original production, or the off, like what you saw, or like I saw the touring production, but I've seen videos and stuff of the original production.
Right. That's
you hear the Broadway casting recording. We'll get into that. So the original production is really what we're going based off of, but we can also go off a little bit of what we saw on tour and stuff, but not mainly. We're going to go off the main cast.
Okay.
So that's kind of what just we're going off the main cast, but I may. From what I saw in the show, it's pretty much the off-Broadway and the Broadway production, the touring production, is pretty much the same set. So I didn't really see anything differently than on Broadway because there was no set difference. So I pretty much saw everything you would see on Broadway. Maybe just not in the same theater, but in the set-wise and everything else, it was pretty much all the same. So I think I can judge it pretty well. So the first, I'll give you the 10 right quick. We're going to go through the plot of the story. We're going to go through the characters of the story and rate how the characters, the depth of the characters and how they are. Then we're going to go through the costumes, the lighting, and this is not for all shows, but I just added this in special effects because I knew David Hansen, even though it may not be what people call special effects, I call it special effects for the projections. So then we'll go through that. The music, and the music is what you hear, not the songs. So the music, the score, yeah, that's the better way to put it. The songs, the cast, which means not the characters, but the people who play the characters, the set, and then the dialogue, like the script they wrote, not the singing parts, the spoken
They
part.
call that the book.
Yeah, the book. Yeah. See, I'm pretty new to some of these Broadway terms.
Happy to help you out.
Yeah, but I'm more than happy for you guys, or anyone to help me out, because I love learning about Broadway, and I love being part of the Broadway community. It's such a great community.
Great.
So let's get started if you don't mind.
Sure.
So let's talk about the plot of Dear Evan Hansen, which is a very interesting plot and it's very not unusual, but very newish to this kind of generation, because we don't really have that kind of we have musicals that are really sad, but not a musical that really touches you because it relates to so much nowadays issues. A Strange Loop was something that I consider kind of like Dear Evan Hansen because of the fact that it related to today's issues. A black queer gay man. Dear Evan Hansen relates to people with ADHD and people who have social problems and feel like they're alone. So there's not really many plays out there nowadays that can relate to issues that are really in depth like Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah, see, I am with you on the show being a moving exploration of a young man's struggle. But that is not the consensus that has formed around this show. A lot of people think he's just a jerk, and he's unkind to Zoe, and he's unkind to the Connors, and he lies, and it blows up in his face, but not because poor Evan, but because he's a manipulator. And I don't agree with that. I think he's a victim. I think he's got a tough life and a tough hand dealt to him. But a lot of people don't agree with me.
I can see that people who don't understand mental health as much, and mental health is a big issue these days that's talked about and needs to be talked about. So people who don't understand that, I can see that, but still at the same time, you gotta understand the story and the way and the character, which we can talk about next, of Dear Evan Hansen before you even get into it, because if you don't know the character, you won't understand the story. And it's very difficult to understand the whole story if you don't understand who Evan is as a person. But the plot, pretty much it's Evan. he doesn't, I don't really say makes up a lie. He does make up a lie, but I would say he kind of creates the lie just to help. For him, he views it like he's helping someone, but he's helping himself.
Yeah, but he falls into the lie. He
Yeah,
doesn't go looking for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It just lands in his lap.
It lands in his lap. He doesn't go, it just lands in his lap. And it's so interesting because he has a choice, lie or not lie, but then he sees the possibility, possibly he sees the possibility of what if I lie, all the good things, or what if I don't lie, it's going to hurt his family.
Right. I mean, but when he uses it to
his own advantage.
To have this relationship with the sister, that's crossing the line.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I also see too, is that at first he was just trying to, I think, console the Connors, but then the Murphys, my bad. But then he sees a chance to be with Zoe, and then he takes it a step further. Because at first, I feel like personally he was just trying to console the Murphys, the mom and dad. But then they saw the cast and they thought more, and he just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But then when he sees a chance in Zoe, and he sees Zoe likes him, that's when everything starts to crumble, and he starts to fall in that lie of webs.
Yeah.
And it's a very moving. I like to talk about other characters, but like Alana is a really good character in the show. Kind of in the movie, it's different because it explains her character more in depth. And I really like that in the movie. That explains
Remind me? I've seen the movie. But
the movie is like she's like Evan. She takes medicine. She's kind of like she has problems, and she has a song, an original song for the movie called "Anonymous Ones." She's talking about how she hides everything away so she can look perfect, but she's not perfect on the inside.
Right.
And if you don't see the movie, then it doesn't really explain that in the show. It kind of does, it hints at it, but in the movie it really goes in depth with her in the new song, "Anonymous Ones," which. It's really good to see that. But Jared is just Jared. I don't really know how to explain Jared. He's not a jerk, but he's just like trying to be his age and be funny. But he comes into this lie, I guess, and he just sees a way, doesn't really see the consequences. Or I don't really know how to explain it. Can you help me explain Jared?
Well, sure. I think he is a jerk. I think he is typical high school obnoxious guy who feels uncomfortable around somebody who's not popular and tries to keep him at arm's length and sort of enjoy watching him struggle. I think Jared's kind of mean.
Well, and I know we're kind of getting the kids, but I kind of want to get people understanding the plot a little bit right. We can go more in depth with his character in the character section, but the plot, I just want to understand that he helps Evan with these lies, and he creates this web even further. And in the end, everything crumbles, and Evan has to tell the truth, and that's when Words Fail comes in, and that's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And Evan has to tell the truth, and he sees the truth, and he's just petrified. He didn't know what to do. And then at the end, we find out that his arm's not on the cast because he fell off a tree. He jumped off a tree.
Now, do you know how that happened? How Pasek and Paul came to that moment?
No. Can you explain?
Sure. So there's that famous line: "If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound?" That's a famous line.
Yeah, it's heard over and over.
But then they stuck that in their song. If you're falling in the forest and there's nobody around, will you ever really crash or even make a sound? Right. And so they wrote that, and then so they created the song, and then they said, wait, what if Evan didn't fall out of the tree, right?
Yeah.
So they started with the music, and then they changed the plot to match the song, which I think is pretty interesting.
That's called adapting.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because they saw the opportunity to make the story more in depth, and they changed it and they adapted. That's just really cool. I like that little fact. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But then at the end, in the show, we don't see what the consequences are.
Right.
And that's the one thing everyone criticizes, and I wish they did in the show, is they show those consequences.
Yeah.
Because in real life, we would see the consequences. In the movie, they do the perfect thing. They show the consequences.
Right.
And I love that about the movie. And that's the one thing I praise about the movie, showing the consequences, showing people hate him, and he's despised. But he's trying to understand Connor more by reading books, trying to find videos about Connor. And that's where Connor's last song, who played Colton Ryan, who plays in the movie, he actually now is playing New York, New York.
Right.
So it's really cool to see his transformation from Connor on the Evan Hansen movie to a Broadway show and be nominated for a Tony.
Yeah,
so it's really cool to see that. But it's really interesting.
He is Tony in West Side Story on YouTube. And he does a great job. So if anybody wants to see more of him, go and search for him on YouTube.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's really made his way up, and it's awesome to see that. And but he plays a perfect Connor in the movie. But it's good to see in the end that they did that in the movie.
Yes.
Because it gives a little peace in mind and knowing, okay, this is what happened. Because you're like wondering what happened. But in the movie, it gives you a little peace of mind. Okay, this happened, and he tried to. He knew he couldn't fix it in the movie, but he tried to understand Connor and tried to help people mend it, not fix it, but mend it a little bit better. And that's one thing I really liked, and that's something really cool. But the plot is pretty much that. Like, did I miss anything, do you think?
No, that's the part that, without giving away everything, that's the basic basic setup.
Yeah. But for me, the plot is interesting. It's very new, and it's very unique, in my opinion. So, in my opinion, I would give it about an 8. Not perfect. I mean, the stuff that could be added, like I said, the ending could be changed to show the consequences. That's why I don't give it an 8 or 9. But overall, the story does not have any holes in it besides that one part. So that's why I give it an 8.
I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
Because I don't think they explore enough how complicated his actions are.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying.
The question becomes, how much did Pascal and Paul know? When they were writing it, did they build in, or did they expect that people were going to hate Evan? Or, because a lot of people hate Evan. Right?
Yeah.
Or did they not know? Did they just think, oh, this poor guy, let's write a show about how much of a struggle it is to be waving through a window, and they told this story not expecting that people were going to rebel against
because they don't understand and they really don't see the actions. But yeah, we both said the same thing. We both agree that so that's good to see that I'm not the only one in that, and we both had the same score. So yeah.
No, I'm giving it a 7. You give it 8.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's around the same score.
Around the same score.
Yeah. So that's really cool, and I really like that a lot. But now let's get on the character. We talked a little bit about Jared. Jared is that jerk kind of character who helps create the live. In the end, you don't really. In the end, either you don't really see what happens to him. You only see what happens to Evan. Evan comes out. You only see what happens to Jared. But Jared's the kind of guy that's just a jerk. Let's just go with that. I mean, that's what I think. But it's just, let's go about more of the characters. More like, we already talked more about Evan. Evan's that ADHD character who people think is a jerk or not a jerk. And who knows? I mean, it's just a question of what he has, but he's just trying to help people, but then he creates the lie and then he keeps the lie going and makes it more of a mess. So, I mean, that's kind of like Evan in the basic, right?
That Evan...
Is that Evan in the basic plot, in the basic standard?
Right.
Alana, we talked a little bit about Alana, too. She's that character that kind of relates to Evan, but also has that suspicion, and she's trying to be the best she can be because she's trying to hide the insecurity she has.
She's generally cast as black.
Yeah.
And yet the show doesn't seem to explore that directly.
Yeah.
It's lots of people of color are waving through a window in their high school.
Yes, and that's a big issue.
They don't examine that in this show. They just cast her as black.
And
which I think is interesting.
And I like the casting of that. And it's different. It's different, and I like that it's not an all-white cast. And I like that little mixture in there. I think it was really interesting. Let's go to... this is going to be an interesting one that I like to talk about, is the Murphys. We'll start with the Mrs. Murphy, or does she have a name, or Cynthia Murphy? Or
I don't remember.
I think it's Cynthia, maybe. No, well, maybe. But let's talk about her. She is the kind of character that's just trying to console. She's just trying to console and find any way possible to console with the grief of her loss of her son.
Be consoled.
Be consoled. Yeah. She's trying to find any avenue, any way. She's the kind of character, I feel like she's just the kind of character that's vulnerable to be tricked in a way. And kind of be jerked or either other way because she is trying to find any way to be consoled.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Sure. She's mourning, and she doesn't know how to deal with her feelings, and her husband is not helping.
And her husband's a stepfather, so he's not really the father of Connor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that I forgot. Okay.
So yeah, that kind of leads on to the Murphys. Mr. Murphy, I like to call him. I'm not sure if he has a name either. I forgot the names.
Yeah.
But for him, he doesn't at first, and in the end, he just forgets. He doesn't really care.
Right.
He's it says. Zoe says he didn't even cry at the funeral. He didn't even shed a tear. Yeah. So he doesn't really feel any empathy because he thought that he was a bad person. He didn't really have any connection.
We should talk about Connor.
Yeah.
We skipped him.
We're going to him next.
We're going to him next. Okay,
Yeah.
So
We're just going in order.
Yeah. What do you think of Connor?
But yeah, that was mainly about the dad. But
right.
Connor is just. I feel like in the movie, I feel it's hard to explain it because in one way, I feel like Connor is a victim of bullying, but he's also mental health issues. Because in the movie, it explains people making fun of him and him getting mad. But in the
There's
same,
a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
He's high
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah. I feel like he's just trying to find some way to deal with his grief, or not his grief, but his problem. I feel like most people don't go in depth with that, and they just see the surface of it. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, he is a troubled teen that has mental health issues, but he does drugs to deal with his problems of feeling insecurity and feeling alone like Evan, but he does drugs and he just hides it like everyone else. And you don't really, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just hard to explain him, but it's just, we all know he's a troubled teen, but in my opinion, I see a little more in depth with him.
You know, on the last day of his life, he picks a fight with Evan. He steals his letter, right? It's just very sad.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Connor?
Like I said, I think he's a sad character.
Yeah. It's really sad to see. You don't see much of him. You see him throughout the show, but you don't see much of him throughout the show like other characters.
Right.
Let's talk about Zoe.
Okay.
Zoe, I feel like she's mourning, but not mourning like her mom. She still has empathy. She still feels alone. I'm trying to think. Requiem is a good one. She's doesn't feel Requiem, but she still feels like something's missing. Yeah. And she still feels a little sad about it, but she doesn't feel sad enough to grieve about it.
Yeah, she's not grieving. She's not in the category of her mother.
Yeah. But
she doesn't miss him.
Yeah.
She didn't like him. He didn't like her. I think they're typical siblings that don't like each other.
But the reason I say she was grieving not like her mother is because when you see Evan talk about her brother in a good way, she's actually sad. So she had some feelings, maybe not like strong feelings, but she had some kind of feelings for Connor, even if it was not in a big way.
All right.
And that's where I kind of see it, because she does have feelings for Connor when she hears good things. And when she hears there was all lies, she gets sad because she really thought he was a good guy.
Right.
And she thought that her brother was actually good, so she was excited that she was a good guy and not the monster that she knew. So she does have feelings for him, and she was disappointed. That's why I say she has some grieving, but not in the level like her mom.
Right.
And that's just in my opinion. But how do you feel? Do you agree with that in some way?
Do I agree that...
do you agree that she is grieving not like her mom, but she does have that little bit of grief?
I don't really see her as being all that sad. I think it doesn't really affect her. I think she's...
I said, not as much. Just a tiny bit, but
okay.
you can
I'll
see
give you
it.
a tiny, and that's
Yeah. I'm not going to say she's grieving like she's crying, but there are some songs and some parts in the show. She does show a little empathy.
Okay.
But she's doesn't really care, like you said. She doesn't show siblings, stuff like that, but she does show a tiny bit, not a lot, maybe 10% or less than that.
Do we know what happened to their father?
No, that never was really explained. And I wish that was explained. because that could have deepened the part of the story. Like, did he leave them? Did he go? Like, he died in a car accident? Like, how did her father die? A drug over?
Or divorce?
Yeah.
Or abandonment? Right?
Yeah.
We just don't find
drug,
out.
like suicide. Like, how did she die? But I don't think. I think if it was suicide, it would be more traumatic for her. So I don't think it was suicide, in my opinion. Because if it was suicide, then two of the men in her life.
Depression is genetic.
Yeah.
So it very well could be.
Yeah, it could be. So it's an interesting concept that I think could be talked about for hours.
Yeah.
Really go in depth. I think that's the main characters, all the characters. Am I missing anyone?
We got them all.
How do you? You go first this time. How do you rate them?
How do I rate it?
Yeah.
So, I don't like a lot of the characters. Like, I wouldn't want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
I'm compassionate towards Evan.
Yeah.
The Connors, I wouldn't want to go to dinner there. I just feel like an inviting.
He threw a printer out of
home.
second grade teacher because he's going to be line leader.
Yeah. I would not want to have dinner there. I think I'm going to give the characters a 6.
I was going to give
them
them
a 6
a 6
of Broadway
too.
shows.
Yeah.
And I just don't think the characters measure up.
And I was going to say a 6 too.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, we were both on the same because I seen other Broadway shows that go more in depth. Like, they go in depth with Evan, but they don't really go in depth with other characters as much as they do in some other shows. They don't really go like dig deep. You can speculate all you want, but like they don't really give you hard, solid, concrete evidence in some other characters.
We skipped and then we didn't come back to it. We're talking about characters right now.
Yeah.
Is Evan autistic?
My theory is yes. In the show, he has all the signs of being autistic. Not wanting to eat a lot, kind of being shy around people, kind of being shy to talk to people in person. Like, I always used to be shy to talk to people in person. I always or over the phone or anything like that. I was always wanted to do it online. For me, I'm autistic, so I relate to Evan in every way possible. It checks all the boxes for me, relating just like him. Like, I stutter just like him sometimes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to say it, but like, I use my hands a lot like he does. So there's a lot of connection between autistic people and what Evan. He said, so a lot of people say ADHD or autistic, but I think it's more autistic than ADHD because there's a lot more signs of autism than there is of ADHD in that.
Yeah, I don't think it's ADHD.
So I definitely think it's autism. So, yeah, that's the main thing I think about Evan. I think it was, I know the big advocate for mental health that Evan Hansen show is.
Yeah.
So I definitely know that it's definitely autism in my mind because I can relate to him in every level and checks all the boxes of everything that I do. And just going back to Ben Platt, he did the mannerisms perfectly for an autistic person.
Yeah. This is not related to autism, but it does relate to being on the outside, always looking in.
Yeah.
When Evan Hansen was at second stage off Broadway, I actually brought, I think, 6 young adults with Down syndrome to see it, and they loved it. They loved it because
they can relate to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think a lot of people that have mental health they like about it because they can relate.
Yeah.
It's a show they actually can relate to and understand what he's going through. But let's get the costumes. And the costumes, I'm just saying the costumes, pretty regular. They're nothing special about them. They're like regular day costumes, like you would see in any high school or TV show. So it's pretty much not really to talk about because it's not like extravagant.
No, I disagree. Evan has a uniform, right? There is, like if you say to anybody, what is Evan? He's wearing a light blue
everyone
shirt.
but Evan, like, right?
Oh, okay, fine. But still,
Yeah.
your costumes, you can't have him wearing a
different shirt every day, like
a sport shirt
or a comic shirt or something
or a
like
comic shirt, right? He's
like
got a
Jared.
uniform, right? He's got a uniform, and
jeans
which is
and
kind of
khakis.
fun. It's kind of fun that you see. You can take one look. Oh, and we're going to see Evans at Broadway Con for sure. You're going to see people walking around with casts.
That's me.
There you are. Oh, you got a cast?
Yeah, I got everything here, so you guys may see me at Broadway Con wearing my David Hansen stuff. So
Great.
I'm really excited, but I mean, for me, the costumes were perfect for the show because they relate to nowadays.
Right.
So it's not like they're not extravagant, they're not blah blah blah. They're perfect for the show because they relate to nowadays costumes, nowadays clothes that you can relate to nowadays.
Okay.
So that's what I like about them is that they're not fancy, they're formal, they're nowadays, so they don't
There's
bring...
a song about an item of clothing.
Which one? Oh,
A glove.
yeah, the glove.
Yeah. What does that represent in your mind?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What does it represent to you?
Well, Evan never had his dad teach him how to throw and catch.
Yeah.
And so it's this moment of, wow, what's it like to have a family? What's it like to have a normal family? And I think it's an important song that gets overlooked.
That's my thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of my top favorite songs because it's so.
Really?
It's interesting because I like Waiting Through Window. I like You'll Be Found, but and Words Fail, but also like Glove. I was kind of sad that I left it out of the movie because it kind of gives a little connection between the dad and Evan more, and it kind of just shows him that Evan didn't have a dad, so he wants that father figure in his life. So
You have to admit it's not a very tuneful song.
it's not, but it's still good.
It's important.
It's important. It's important to the plot.
Yeah, I agree.
So how would you rate the costumes?
4?
Yeah, I was gonna say probably a 3 for me.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's not extravagant, but it's still important
Yeah.
to show this nowadays. So I will put that down. So this is the next two are big things for the musical. I feel like lighting and special effects. The lighting for the show is extravagant. I really like the lighting because they have the phone lighting, like when they're talking on the phone, they show a phone box. When they have Waving Through a Window, they did all the light spotlights, and it's just really extravagant. It's really over the top, but really not too over the top.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's too busy, in my opinion. But no, but you're not talking about the set. You're only talking about the lighting.
Yeah,
But even so, it's I find it
too busy.
Yeah.
I just like the lighting. Some song, I know Waiting Through a Window is kind of busy for me.
Okay.
It's kind of takes away from my view of Evan and kind of like makes me look around, not focus on the main part, the person singing the song. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Some songs, I know like when they're doing the talk on the phone, I like that part because it's showing their phone. It's not too busy. It's just showing them inside the phone talking. So
you're not going to get more than a 3 from me on the lighting. Just warning you. You'll get a 3 and that's it.
For me, it would be definitely a 4.
A 4, okay.
A 4, definitely, because I like it. It's good, but sometimes it's busy. Sometimes it may be a little over the top, but overall, it's still not bad lighting.
Okay.
So I would just say that special effects, which is mainly like I told you before, special effects mainly present the projection.
Right.
The main projection scene is Waiting Through a Window. That's the main one, like where they project everything on the screen and it pops up and blows up.
Yeah, but what about all this stuff when his?
Yeah, but I'm saying the main, like the big one that's like busy.
Okay, but
that's busy.
I like it as his live blows up. They have all these Facebook and YouTube, and that it's all about social media.
I like it. It's good. It's just sometimes it's busy, but at the same time, I like it, and especially Words Fail.
Oh, okay.
That one really, I love Words Fail one because that really shows a lot, like him on the screen, people videotaping him, showing his videotaping it on YouTube, and people saying thank you Evan. I really like that. That one really gets me, and I love it.
So I'll give it a 5.
I would definitely give it a 5. I would definitely give it a 5. Yeah,
okay.
I would definitely give it a 5. The music, I like the music. It's not the songs, but the music of it, like Waiting Through a Window. The tune, the songs, not the songs, the tune of it is really catchy.
Are we going to talk about the song separately?
Yeah, separately. I just like to talk about the music because music is a whole nother thing than the songs. I feel like.
Again, the score.
Yeah, score. Yeah, score.
Yeah.
The score is really good, but I would definitely give it a 5 or 6 for me.
Oh, I'm giving it a 7. I think Pascal and Paul are very talented.
I'd definitely give it a 6 then, because 6, I mean, they're great. They did The Greatest Showman, which I love The Greatest Showman. Did they do La La Land?
They did the lyrics only.
Lyrics only.
Yeah.
They're still really talented.
Yeah.
But the songs are really catchy.
Yeah.
And they're really tuneful, and they really get, like, Words Fail, it's a really good tune, really good lyric, really good, it's really good. So we'll get into the, let's get into the songs next, because I love the songs in the show.
Okay.
I absolutely adore them. Waiting Through a Window, Words Fail, You Will Be Found, definitely. I know one that's overlooked a lot is the last one, the second to last one, Big Small, that one.
Yeah.
That one's really powerful because it shows, it's
So
sad.
Makes me cry.
It's so sad, but it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It shows how Evan's mom wants to be there for him, but the hardships that she had to go through to be able to help him help them survive.
You know, I have a theory about Waving Through a Window.
Yeah, you can talk about it now. Yeah.
Which is that the window does not just refer to being on the outside looking in, but it's a computer screen that he's tapping on the glass of his phone.
That is really cool. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of songs. Requiem's a good song.
Yes.
I like Requiem a lot. But the whole song list is really well done.
You can't get me lower than a 9.
Definitely.
I'm at a 9.
Definitely. I would say a 9.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind, because they did such a good job writing all these songs to connect and also connect with the audience and make the story flow. So I would definitely give it a 9 for me. It's just hard to beat a 9 because it's so good. Paul and they did such a good job. I just can't give them enough credit for that.
Yeah.
The cast. Now, I love the cast. I love Ben Platt. We always talk about Ben Platt, extravagant. But also, I like the person who plays Jared.
Yeah.
He plays in a lot of big Broadway shows. He played Be More Chill, Goosebumps with Alex Brightman. He plays in multiple shows, but he's really good. I forget his name.
Will
Rowland.
And I kind of know him. He knows who I am. We've met a few times.
I really liked him.
He's a very talented actor.
Yeah, I liked him in Be More Chill.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I've seen the bootleg. Guys,
it's not right.
I know it's not right. I saw it when it was off Broadway, when it got taken off Broadway.
All right.
I did not see it when it was on Broadway. I make sure I do not see anything while it's running.
All right, good.
I only make sure when it's off Broadway because I want to pay.
When it's no longer on Broadway.
Yes. When it's no longer on tour on Broadway, I always watch something when it's extinct, kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't agree with it.
All right.
So I just want to get that clear.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone coming after me saying you did that. No, I just don't. I only watch when it's extinct because I just want to see what it was like if I missed it. So, but him, I know Zoe was really good in the show. Zoe Murphy. Connor was really good. I really like Connor. Mike Fast. I'm not trying to say Face. Really good. Evan's mom and Connor Murphy's mom was really good too.
Right.
And I think the whole cast.
Well, Rachel Bay Jones is a very talented actress. She just got cast in Stephen Sondheim's last musical. She will be in it. It opens a few months from now.
Wow.
And,
you have a panel on that, don't you?
I'm leading a panel on Sondheim tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I saw that. I was like,
I hope you come.
Yeah, I probably will come to see you on that. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to Broadway Con, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But also, Connor's dad's also playing Tuck Everlasting.
Oh, I don't know that show.
Yeah, it's a really good show. It's it was a couple of years ago. He's actually playing a lot of he actually stayed in the show for such a long time.
Was he?
Yeah, he was in the show I think for like over 2 or 3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, he was in there forever. He just I think the 2 months before the show ended, he left.
It's not a very demanding role, and he gets paid, so I'm sure it was very
but
easy for him
he loved
to
the
say.
musical, he said.
Yeah,
so.
but even so, I once you have a job like that, you don't complain. Because, Ben could not have stayed in that role for another year. There's just no way, because the vocal demands are so
and
strong.
And
the physical demands, exactly.
Yeah. But for me, I would give the cast definitely not at the time. Some of the cast was not big enough, but now, like Ben Platt was not as known as he is now. He was known, he was out there, but not as big as the person he is now. Evan Hansen really put him up there.
Yeah, I'm giving it an 8.
Definitely an 8. I was gonna say a 9.
Well, you give it a 9.
I
Don't
was
give it an
gonna
8.
no. I
give
was
it
gonna
a
9
Yeah,
because I was definitely saying a 9 just because the cast was really well done, and the characters and the way they cast the characters really fit the roles.
Right.
The set, I really like the set. The set's not too complicated.
Yeah.
But the set is really, it's technology based.
Yes.
It's nowadays based.
Uh-huh.
So, and it gives you a vibe of like, okay, it's nowadays based. Evan's just trying to. It's hard to explain the set because it's all projections, but it's also really good projection.
Right. I think set and lighting and special effects are
I can combine those.
They kind of overlap with each other. No, we
Yeah.
have to have 10/10s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, let me go back.
But
No,
yeah,
okay.
but I think we can give the set a 5.
Yeah, the set is definitely for me definitely a 6.
A 6. Okay.
6 because it was good,
Yeah.
but it's not extravagant. It's not different. It's like they have some sets, some pieces come down, and at the very end, the whole thing comes up.
Right.
So the set is very effective for me. So I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
The dialogue, the way they talk, that's
It's called the book.
the book, I should say.
It's okay.
The book. I have an expert here. I love this.
It's okay. No problem.
No, I love it. I love learning this stuff. The book.
Uh-huh.
The book, the story, and the plot. I mean, the book was really well done.
That's by Stephen Levinson.
Stephen Levinson, he's a great person. I love the book. The book was really well done. It really put the story all together, and the songs connected, but the book was just phenomenal because it really and emotional. Because like I know right before Good For You, there was that whole bit between Evan and his mom when they're yelling and stuff. That part was just so emotional.
It is funny where it needs to be funny.
Yes.
And it is sad where it needs to be sad.
It's
and
perfect.
it is angry where it needs to be angry.
It's perfect.
But it doesn't explore, I don't think, the complexity of Evan's decision-making process.
Exactly.
So I can't give it more than an 8.
I was going to give it a 7.
Okay.
A 7 because of that fact.
Yeah.
Because of that fact. So that's pretty much 10 out of 10, guys. So I'll give you back. I took the lowest score, and I'll use that lowest score as the one we'll go add up and everything.
Okay.
So we're going to give the plot a 7. The characters, I think we said a 6.
Okay.
The costumes a 3 or 4. I mean, lighting a 4. Special effects, I think we gave that about a 5.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah. Music, we gave that a 6, I believe. Then with these songs a 9, cast an 8, set a 5, and dialogue a 7.
Uh-huh.
And so overall, let's do a little math here.
Yeah.
It's math time. I should have a little screen that says math time. But check it out.
Right.
Rounded up, it would be a 7.
A 7 is the average for the show.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great musical. I love it so much.
Right.
And there is stuff in it that could be improved. But I think a 7 is a solid score for that.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. It came out a little lower than I thought it would, especially given your enthusiasm for the show. But I see it. I see a 7.
I definitely see a 7 or 8. That was my scale, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
When I did this, I actually got a 7.5, which rounded up to an 8.
Okay.
So I was right around the same score as we got.
ended up.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't get, when I did my own analysis, we didn't get far off.
Right.
So it was not, my analysis of the show is really good, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts were too, so see how they average up.
Can I tell your listeners my my website?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's thebroadwaymaven.com, and you can go there. You can subscribe to my Substack newsletter. You can find out about my classes. You can go to my YouTube channel, thebroadwaymaven.com.
Yes, and guys, that wraps up Broadway 10 stars. I have to get used to the name, guys. It's new for me. But if you guys want me, I'll put my Twitter on the screen right now. It's at Predictions, APP Predictions, but I'm also going to get a new page just for this channel soon. I already have it up and running, but I just have to change some stuff around. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you so much for all the support you guys are going to give me and everything else. And have a good night. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your night.